Welcome, dear listeners to Sinister Radio. We welcome you to this Halloween night, where the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. The air is colder, the shadows longer, and the moon glows like a pale witness to horrors the night might bring. So dim the lights, settle in, and let the darkness in. Tonight, I'll tell you the story about a group of teenagers that didn't listen to the warnings they've been given. What if what they discovered still lingers in the shadows of the night? Waiting, watching, when the night is over. Let's hear the story. In the small, forgotten town of Morrow's End, the locals had shared stories for years about the man who lived in the old mansion. No one really knew his name, and no one dared to ask. Some claimed he had lived there for decades, lurking in the shadows of the sprawling, derelict estate. His presence was felt but never confirmed. People in Morrow's End tried not to wander too close to the mansion, especially after dark, but it wasn't until 3 kids vanished one Halloween night that fear sank its claws deep into the town. Rumors were spreading fast in the little town. The missing kids had visited the old mansion just before they disappeared. So the police combed the area, dragging ponds, searching the woods, and questioning every resident, but they found nothing. No leads, no bodies. Only whispers and rumors. They had their suspicions, but without evidence, their hands were tied. As winter closed in, the town retreated into itself, each household a fortress of locked doors and shuttered windows. 3 teenagers, Becca, Zach, and Leo, had decided this would be the year they'd finally pay the old mansion a visit, and find out if the rumors were true. Late, on Halloween night when the town was quiet and the moon was hidden behind a thick veil of clouds, Becca, Zach, and Leo made their way to the mansion. The road was rough and overgrown, the kind of path that nature had started reclaiming. Becca clutched her flashlight tight, her pulse quickening with each step closer to the towering structure. "Guys, are we really doing this?" Becca whispered, her voice small against the cold breeze. Leo answered, "What are you afraid of? It's just an old house." Zach laughed, "Come on guys, it's just some dusty old man and some creaky floorboards. It'll be over in 5 minutes." As they approached, they could see the faintest light glowing from a window high up in what could be the attic, flickering like a candle in a storm. The front door was unlocked. It creaked open on its own, as if it had been expecting them. Becca hesitated before she stepped inside. Her eyes darted nervously to the shadows in the windows. The air inside the house was thick and heavy, reeking of rot and something sweet, almost sickening. Zach, Becca, and Leo moved quietly, their footsteps swallowed by the ancient carpet that lined the grand hall. On the walls, they noticed strange trinkets, small bones tied together with red string. Old photographs of people they didn't recognize, all with their eyes scratched out. As Zach made his way up the stairs towards the light in the attic, he glanced back to check if they were following, but Leo and Becca exchanged a look and shook their heads. Zach went further by himself. As he went closer to the attic, he heard a soft, rhythmic sound of humming. It was drifting down the stairs like a lullaby gone wrong. Zach's heart raced, but he kept on going, each step bringing him closer to the creepy humming. Finally, he reached the attic door. It was slightly ajar, and he pushed it open to find himself in a room filled with glass jars. Each jar contained something different: locks of hair, teeth, fingernails, pieces of clothing stained with what could only be blood. In the center of the room stood an old man, his back to him, hunched over a small workbench, humming to an old record from the 50s as he meticulously cleaned a rusted blade. He was collecting all those horrifying things in the jars. The old man turned slowly, like he could sense Zach's presence. Zach gasped. The old man's face was pale, almost corpse-like, with hollow eyes that forced Zach to stand still and unable to move. He smiled, a slow, deliberate movement that revealed rows of sharpened teeth. Zach stepped back, his eyes darting to the stairs. But the old man was fast. He lunged forward, grabbing him by the wrist. His grip felt as cold and unyielding as iron. Zach screamed, but his voice was swallowed by the thick walls of the mansion. He struggled. His hands clawing at him, held him tight. The old man's breath was cold, and with a wide smile, he let Zach go. Zach stumbled back, bewildered, but before he could run, the old man spoke. He whispered, "Go home," his voice soft and unnervingly calm. "Tell them what you saw. Tell them what I am. They won't believe you." The old man turned his back at him facing the workbench, and continued his humming. Zach ran down the stairs as fast as he could. His mind were unraveling, the images of the jars. The old man's face was burning themselves into his memory. Becca and Leo were nowhere to be seen. Zack ran and ran until he reached his home, where he locked the doors, and hid under his bed with his heart pounding in his chest. Days passed, then weeks. Zack never told a soul what he had seen. When Becca and Leo asked about the screams that made them run for their lives, Zack just told them that the old man gave him a good old Halloween scare. In the end, Zack was left alone, haunted by the knowledge that the old man was still there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for his next victims. And so, the town of Morrow's End returned to its silent, uneasy existence, never knowing the true horror that lay just beyond the edge of the little town. The collector remained, his secrets safe and his collection growing with each passing night, as he continued his dark work, unpunished and unseen. Thank you for listening to tonight's horror story. But remember, even as we end tonight's story, countless others are lurking in the shadows, waiting to be told, so join us again, if you dare, when we return with more stories of the unknown. Until then, sleep tight and sweet dreams, and try not to let the darkness creep in. We'll be waiting for you till next time, right here on Sinister Radio.